All right, well, we still have a few people signing in. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. My name is Katie Schauer, and I am the Digital Marketing Specialist at Source and your host for this morning. You've joined us for Enabling the Connected Worker, AVEVA Mobile Operator Rounds, and we appreciate your time this morning. We will be recording today's session, and that will be available to you later next week on our website as well as through an email. Should you have any questions during the entire portion of the presentation, please feel free to utilize the Q&A and chat boxes, and we'll be happy to answer those at the end of the session. We are keeping all lines muted because we are expecting a high call volume. And with that, I'd like to pass it over to Kevin Maudlin.
Thanks, Katie, and I would also like to welcome everybody to today's webinar. Again, my name is Kevin Maudlin. I'm the Director of Architected Solutions here at InSource, and I want to thank you for joining us to learn more about the connected worker. This event is presented in conjunction with our partners AVEVA and Amplify Technology Solutions. So in addition to me, you'll be hearing from my colleague, Louis Talley at InSource, Gary Johnston from AVEVA, and Pete Ankner from Amplify. Some of you on the line might be existing customers. If you are, thank you and welcome back. In case you're not as familiar with our company, I want to take just a few minutes to introduce who we are and what we do. InSource is a company that helps manufacturing and industrial clients digitally transform their businesses. We're an employee-owned company, which means that for all of our employees, your success really is our success. Our aim is to revitalize manufacturing in America, and we want to be the catalyst for $1 billion in client transformation. I realize that sounds like a pretty audacious goal, and it is, but we're prepared to chip away at that one plant or one production line at a time. We've been in the business of supplying technology solutions since 1997, and you're going to see one of those technologies in action today. But along the way, we've come to learn that technology alone is not enough. A simple example that I like is Fitbit. How much weight will you lose if you buy a Fitbit? Well, it depends on what you do with the information and motivation that technology provides. Albeit on a different scale, the same thing is true of technology in manufacturing. Real results only occur when your technology has been adopted by your people and enabled by processes. That's when disciplined execution can happen. To give you a flavor for the kinds of results our solutions can provide, let me quickly summarize a few examples for companies we've recently helped. AW North Carolina manufactures transmissions for Toyota in Durham, NC. In fact, they make about 3,000 transmissions a day. Our solutions help them reduce unplanned downtime and improve productivity, or as they like to say, become digital at the point of entry. CertainTeed is a company that makes gypsum drywall. We assisted in the implementation of a multi-site MES system that greatly improved their production visibility. In fact, the kind of production data that was previously available 8 to 12 hours after production ended is now available virtually instantaneously. And that rapid access to information is paying large dividends. Seacare is a consumer products company in Baltimore that also wanted to get a better handle on production and quality. But they recognized the need to start small and evolve and scale. As their CEO noted, they were delighted with the way our IIoT solution could be deployed and producing results in a matter of days instead of weeks. Many of our solutions are underpinned by technology from AVEVA, but you might be wondering, who is AVEVA? Well, AVEVA has a history of over 50 years of innovation in software. Today's AVEVA was created by a merger with Schneider Electric's software business about 2.5 years ago. So that's what brought us to the AVEVA fold, because the house brands for AVEVA, in addition to their legacy products, now include Wonderware, Cytect, Indusoft, Avantis, and SimSci. And it's just been announced that AVEVA is in the process of acquiring OSI Pi. So we believe that AVEVA's full portfolio is truly unique and without match. It's a broad and integrated software portfolio that touches virtually every part of an industrial or manufacturing operation. We like to represent that portfolio along two different axes. In this picture, the horizontal axis represents the asset lifecycle. The asset lifecycle is the process by which a plant, inclusive of all the assets and equipment therein, is uniquely designed and then operated and finally maintained in a continuous improvement loop. The vertical axis represents the operations lifecycle, where production is planned, then executed, and monitored for quality and continuously optimized. So you can see that those two axes intersect, but we're going to be drilling into specifically at the asset performance management wing of this portfolio picture. And I'm going to hand it over to Gary Johnston from AVEVA, who's going to introduce us to the APM portfolio from AVEVA. So over to you, Gary. Hey, Gary, I don't hear. Oh, here you go.
You're good, Gary.
There we go. Very good. Thank you, Kevin. And again, thanks everyone for your time this morning. Before we get into our mobile operator solution, what I'd like to do is just take a few minutes to discuss our overall asset performance management lifecycle portfolio, if you will. I guess to start off, we do support the entire lifecycle of the asset, from the acquisition of it through procurement, or even from a manufacturing perspective, acquiring that asset, operating it, maintaining it, all the way through the life cycle to decommission. Second, in the approach here that we've depicted from a continuous process improvement, we feel that any customer can enter this process of improvement based on your maturity level, whether you're just starting on your APM journey or whether you've been at it for 5 or more years. We feel you can gain a lot of value by using some of our solutions in this approach. And then finally, our solutions are technology agnostic. So our solutions can integrate with a lot of the applications and platforms that may already exist within your organization. But by implementing those, we can offer seamless solutions and work processes to help you in these areas. So with that, let's just cover the solutions briefly. If we start at the top right of our continuous improvement motion picture here, defining the asset strategy, we have solutions around that to help you define criticality analysis, that'll help you build an asset strategy, whether you want to build that strategy on your own with a failure modes and effects analysis process, or we also offer an asset strategy library where we've performed all of the detailed analysis and provide all the recommended tasks to mitigate the risks of those failure modes by asset class. And then finally, there's some spares analysis tools and the ability to do some lifecycle costing of that strategy over time. So with that, once we define the asset strategy, let's move around the circle here down to manage and execute the strategy. We provide various tools to start off with to execute that strategy, the first one being an enterprise asset management tool to help you plan, schedule, and execute work, including preventive maintenance tasks. Then also we provide a predictive analytics solutions that allow you for highly critical assets to look at real-time data and understand way ahead of time if we're having problems with a specific asset and the likelihood of it failing. Let's address that before we have a critical failure that impacts downtime and availability. We have our AVEVA mobile operator solution. We're going to spend a lot of time on that today. I'll brush over that one to move to operational safety management, where in the solution we provide the capabilities to perform permitting, safe job analysis, isolation details, and handover. Excuse me. So then if we move to the bottom of our wheel, we want to collect all of the data from executing all of the strategy, right? Whether it's real-time data, transactional data, pictures, videos, all of that asset performance data we can get our hands on. We have tools that allow us to do this, including historians, SCADAs, and HMI, to bring all that data together. And then if we move back up to the analyze and visualize section of our process, we have tools that allow you to look at KPIs, metrics, and all the details of the data, with bringing it all together through a unified operations center. We also have asset information management, which allows you to pull data from multiple different systems into a common view for visualization analysis, and also a 3D asset visualization where we can look at data in a 3D environment of the plant and then link data from engineering, operations, and maintenance so it's quickly and easily accessed. The whole point of this analyze and visualize is really to look at our asset strategy. Is it working or not? Are we improving our availability, our production, our cost structure? and the like. So then we take all of that data and we look at the top left of the circle and act and improve on intelligence. So we want to prioritize and identify those tasks or things that we can do to improve performance again and again throughout the continuous cycle. It could be an engineering redesign, it could be an asset strategy review, a formal root cause analysis. All of those things come into play. So then that continues our improvement cycle. So that's a quick overview of our total asset performance management solution. With that, on the next slide, please there, Kevin, what I'd like to do is take just a couple minutes before we dive into the details of the mobile operator solution, just to give you an overview of the solution, and then we'll get into a demonstration. So here you see depicted, an overview of the operator around solution, mobile operating solution. If we actually start at the top here at 12 o'clock, the field worker training, it's a great tool for us to bring on new employees and give them specific instructions, processes, procedures, videos, details on how to perform tasks, what needs to be done, and how it is to be performed, enabling them to be working in a very safe environment. If we move on to the 1 o'clock position around asset data from data historians, we also connect to and link to the data and historians, but also we connect and link to the asset hierarchy in your work management system. So that allows us to link and synchronize all of our data from a mobile perspective with the data in our asset hierarchy in our work management system and bring it all together. If we move down to around the 5 o'clock position around environmental health and safety, we can create routes, procedures, inspection tasks, all the things that may be required by OSHA or depending on what environment you're in, MSHA for mining, all of the tasks that need to be performed for regulatory compliance. So we can plan, schedule, execute those tasks, record who's doing the task, when it's been done, and then provide all of the reporting when required. As we move around the circle here, let's next talk about maintenance order requests. So we have the ability to connect to your work management system. So when we have a field worker out performing their job in the field, if they find a problem that they can't address then and there when they're out in the field, they may find the need to create a work request. So they can certainly do that on the mobile device. And whether it's in a connected or disconnected mode, it will feed that work order request into your work management system for further processing of planning, scheduling, executing, really closing the loop of what the field worker, technician, connected worker is doing all the way back into our maintenance and reliability processes. And then finally, up at about the 11 o'clock position, the operator rounds really a lot of the foundational of the solution is our ability to define, plan, schedule, and execute operator round tasks that may be done on a daily, weekly, monthly basis for our different workers, and really the non-instrumented equipment that we can perform visual inspections on and gather any of the other data, whether it's temperature, pressure differentials, or thereof, around those assets. And really the goal is for us to understand and evaluate that data well ahead of time so we can prevent that asset or system from failing and impacting production, maintenance costs, and availability. So with that, hopefully that provides you a quick overview of our mobile operator solution. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Louis Talley, who's going to provide a demonstration of our solution. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Gary. So good morning, everyone. My name is Louis Talley. Thanks for taking the time to attend this today. What you should be looking at now represents the execution piece of what Gary was just talking to you about, which is the plan, schedule, execute. So this is the mobile rounds software. You're actually looking at it running on an iPad right now. So I'm actually mirroring my iPad display to my laptop, so you'll see it in real time. This software can be run on lots of different mobile devices. So everything from obviously an iPad like you see here to an Android device or Windows tablet, or even any of the industrial Intermec, Motorola type scanners, the handheld devices. So there's lots and lots of different hardware platforms that this can run on. And peripherals that this can integrate with. So when you want to talk about things like, can I walk up to an asset and scan a barcode, a QR code, an RFID, a Bluetooth beacon to make sure that I'm at the right asset, you can absolutely do this. A lot of times when I'm demonstrating this software for our clients, what I'll do is I'll walk in and I'll have one of the customers bring what their actual paper round is to the meeting. And while Kevin and Gary were just doing their thing, I'll literally put the round in the software, hand the device to the customer, and let them do the demo themselves. I've done that lots of times. It works really well. So it's just a testament to how easy the configuration of this is. So we'll briefly show you what that looks like at the end of the demo here. But I wanted to focus and start with sort of the execute piece, the operator round piece. So this represents me sort of picking up the device and going out and walking around and collecting data. So this is the dashboard that you see here. And so this gives me sort of a high level view of what I have activity wise set up in the system. And so you can schedule things to the scheduling piece. You can schedule things that need to be executed. You can do things on demand. You can come in here and just enter in virtual logs of data. So like a shift transfer or something like that. I wanted to capture some information. So the biggest thing that this is doing is twofold. It's digitizing that piece of paper, right? That piece of paper that if you walk into any given control room, and the operator has some duties to go collect some values from what we call some stranded assets or some non-instrumented assets, things not connected to a PLC. So that operator might have to do that through some periodic task throughout the day. So that replaces that paper, as well as providing that operator with a feedback loop. So a mobile decision support platform. So you're going to see here in a minute that as I start to go through my round and I'm collecting temperatures, I understand where that temperature has been, and I can do things based on that temperature. So if I need to let someone know or generate a work request or capture additional feedback, I can do that. So I'm going to go through, and from my dashboard perspective, sorry, I clicked the wrong thing here. I'm going to go through, and I'm just going to complete one of the procedures on demand that I have set up here. So this procedure on demand can be done at any given time. So from here, this is sort of the main entryway to the task. And I have lots of different ways that I can interact with this. So right now I'm holding the iPad, but I can sort of click through at the bottom or swipe through or anything like that. This is actually a round from a customer where they didn't want to put, it was cost ineffective to put Bluetooth beacons and barcode readers and QR readers outside because of the weather. And so what they wanted to do was actually go up there and take a picture and show the person doing the round, hey, is this the right device that you're at? So you could attach photos and things like that here. I'm going to show you a little bit more of that later. So really, I'm going to go through and just show you. So I've executed this round a couple times. So here we're telling someone, hey, I want you to go capture a pressure reading on this spray nozzle. There's a normal range that this value should be. You can see down here at the bottom, here's a trend of what that value has been over time. I could see a trend. I can see the actual values. You saw that. I could see any notes. Hey, this equipment is out of service. Now, one of the things that is really neat about this, and you can't do this with paper, is if I type a value that's outside of the range, I can restrict values to input right away, right? Which isn't a big deal, but it stops simple fat finger mistakes, spelling errors, things like that. And of course, I'm going to show you in a little bit that I have logic that I can perform that, hey, if the value is above the normal range, and it is actually above the normal range, I want to go do something. And so we'll just put, we'll say that this is a value of 11. And so we can sort of, I'm swiping through, you can't see the swipe because I'm sitting here at my house, but I'm swiping through, or I can navigate through, and I can control through the system, can I skip tasks and things like that. And so I'm really going to skip to the last task because that's the task where I added some logic on. And so this is a HEPA filter on an acid scrubber. And so what we want to make sure is that the differential pressure is not too high on that. And it has an allowable range. But if it is too high on that, like let's say that it's 8, I need to let somebody know. And so that the let somebody know piece, the mobile software is doing for me. So I'm gonna intentionally record a bad value here, right? And so I've done a simple action. I've told the system, hey, when you see this value, I want you to still pop up on the screen and tell the person to let the supervisor know. I could enforce that. I could say things like, hey, I need you to record a note. I need you to re-verify that. I want the system to send someone an email or generate a work order request in our CMMS system or whatever. So I've just chosen a simple action. And so I'll go through and I'll say that that's complete. And so, so I'm going to go through one more procedure just to show you some different ways of using this technology kind of out of the box. And then I'll show you what the end result looks like. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to execute one of my scheduled procedures that I have to execute today. So we thought it might be kind of interesting because COVID is so in the forefront of everybody's life right now to go through and use this technology to maybe adopt it to a screening process. Like when I go to the gym, I notice, every day they check your temperature. So same sort of concept. So I walk up, they check my temperature with a little Bluetooth gun or whatever. And if it beeps, I'm good. If it doesn't, well, that's never happened. So I don't know what they would do. They probably wouldn't let me in. So it turns out the CDC has prescribed a process for that. And so I thought it would be kind of cool to model that. And so what I've done is just attach that here to this document. So I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but that's the actual CDC procedure for COVID-19 screening at a facility. And so I just went to the CDC website and got that. Nothing special, no magic. So you'll see what I did was I literally recreated a portion of that in my round. But this just goes to show you if I wanted to attach some sort of an engineering drawing or a wiring schematic of where something is in a cabinet or something like that, you could do that as well. So this is just showing you a couple things. It's showing you that I can attach documents. So I'm going to go through and again, I've put the logic one here, but we're not really enforcing any logic, right? So I think per that CDC recommendation, if you violate any of the things, you can't come in one of their facilities, I think for 48 hours or something like that. So I've got checks on the values and things like that. So again, you can see the temperatures. And so I'll sort of, I'll record my temperature here. And, you can't see this. I'm going to show you here this in just a second. On my desk, I've got a temperature gun. And so this is one of the really cool things. So bear with me here. So I'm going to attach a photo of this temperature gun in real time. And so we're using our imagination a little bit here, obviously, because I'm the only one here in the room and I can't take my temperature and still take a picture of it. But imagine that we did that. And so I've attached that here. So my temperature is 98.6. And I'm just going to briefly skip through these, but this is a testament to another one of the neat things that the technology does here. So the questioning here, I have no. So if you some people may say things differently, so I can restrict the values to inputs and things like that. So I'll just quickly go through these. I know we're running low on time, and I'll complete the procedure. Now, one quick thing I did want to add was one of the neat things also that I can do is do a validation, right? So I have to sign that I actually done this, that I have done this. So I'll save that. And now I'm going to simulate sort of transferring data back to the mothership, right? So that might be that I take this and I leave the facility and I go do these checks and I come back and I cradle the device, or maybe I have a wireless infrastructure in place that allows me to do what I just did, which is exactly what that is. So now we're going to shift into from the operator's perspective, if you will. So let me turn off the screen mirroring here. To the supervisor or someone who may consume data out of the system's perspective. And so if we just refresh our report here, we can see that I literally just synchronized that data point, right? So there's my COVID screening, there's my scrubber screening. And so if I just want to click on this is the procedure auditor. So what this allows me to do is, so I just told you what one of the things this is good at is taking everything from paper and digitizing it. So this is the inverse of that. So this is, if I want to go back to paper. So if I need to print out proof that I did that round for OSHA or MSHA or whatever regulatory body I need to, I have all the information for me, right? So if I want to go and see, there's the signature that I just did. Excuse me. Or the, I lost my attachment for my photo here. There's my attachment for my photo, sorry. So there's the picture of the temperature gun that I just took. So all that gets stored and associated with the round, right? So I can come in here and I can approve that round, right? So if I want to close that, if I want to show you, one of the really neat things, if I want to take that to paper, right? So here's that round that I just did where I had a violation. So if I want to create that as paper, I can create that as paper. So that's the output of that. It just shows you the time, who did it, what was done, what steps were skipped, what actions were taken, et cetera, et cetera. So very briefly, that's the auditor. Now, from a configuration perspective, The configuration of this is super simple. So what you're looking at is the entire sum of all the configuration of the software. So that's that COVID round that I built. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I literally will do this on the fly in front of customers with their data. And so, I want to add a new task, I can add a new task, and I can control the behavior of that, all those things that I talked about. Do I want to make sure that someone's at the right asset by scanning, or what the values are, or what sort of logic, if Kevin had a cough, what logic do I want to do? I want to associate a severity with that. What does the system need to do? So all of that, I'm using air quotes, all of that additional configuration is done here, but in its simplest form, all of it's drag and drop, and from that interface right here, and it's very, very easy to use. So that's the bulk of what I wanted to cover. I think, Katie, I'll turn it over to Pete, I believe.
Yeah, thanks, Louis. So as Louis said, I'm Pete Ankner with Amplify Technology Solutions. We are a system integrator in the AVEVA network, and we focus on asset performance management. So we put together this package solution, which is for implementing the mobile operator solution. Together with InSource, we kind of identified some of our lessons we've learned in working with customers over the years. And listening to them, some of the key objectives are fast and easy implementation and user adoption. So we really try to take those principles into the design of this package solution. So to walk through the bullet points here, the first one, we estimate about a 4-week implementation time. We think it's important to have this up and running and into your users' hands quickly so you can start unlocking those benefits that Louis was talking about earlier. Next, this is offered in both a cloud-hosted and an on-premise option. So with the cloud-hosted Amplify, we can actually install and host the application in our cloud, and then work with your IT team to establish a secure connection to that server. Alternatively, the more traditional route of on-premise, that's available as well. If you choose this option, then we would work with your team to make sure all the server and infrastructure is in place to have the application running in your network. The next item, system installation and basic setup. So system installation, depending either cloud or on-prem, or also we have to work with your team to get the devices configured, make sure that they're connecting and talking properly with the application server. Additionally, we'll work with the team to get your users and your assets loaded into the system so you have that base data in place that you can actually start executing the routes. So the next item here, end user training. We have a couple offerings here. The first one is data collection training. This is focused on the operator, so they have the knowledge that they can go into the field and actually use the application to collect the information that is required. The second is super user training. This is covers really the full breadth of the application and all the functionality. So from data collection to actually creating routes and system administration. This is really targeted for the key users or the managers that will be managing the application for you. The next piece is really a critical item here is the round building workshop. So we would take a couple days and come on site and work with your team, your key users, and really have a more on-the-job type training experience. So we would take a few of your rounds and actually enter them into the system, get them up and running, kind of optimize how those rounds are set up so you'll be effectively able to use in the field. So the end result after that session is your key users are ready and trained to use the system, and then also you do have rounds that are ready to be executed that day. The next item, operational support. What we've seen in working with our customers is there's a variety of services which can range from creating reports, actually having us enter rounds in the system, to how-to questions where you want to pick up the phone and need some support. So these type of things that we have the services available in the time to be able to help you pretty much on demand. The last point to mention here is subscription pricing. So this consulting offering matches the term of your license agreement either on a 1 or 3-year period. So that kind of covers our package solution here. I think go back to Katie for the question and answer.
Great, thanks, Pete, and thank you guys for your presentations here. We do have some questions here, so as we're going through the ones that we've already gotten, please feel free to utilize the Q&A or chat boxes to ask any further. Our first question is, actually let me unmute you guys here real quick. The first question is, will the mobile devices work in both connected and disconnected mode?
Katie, this is Lewis. I can take that one. So the answer to that is yes. If you look at sort of historically where the software evolved from, it was originally designed to be used in oil and gas, where they would come in the morning, take the device, and then leave in the truck or whatever for the day, go out and collect the data, come back at the end of the day and put the data back in. So it's always been designed around working in a disconnected mode. So everything that is needed to do the round on the device is on the device itself. So when I showed you that trend, all that data is there that's on the device. So it doesn't require any connection to the mothership or any Wi-Fi connection whatsoever. And then of course it can absolutely work in a connected mode. So it will work in both.
Great. Our next question is, does the software integrate with Wonderware Historian and can data flow both ways?
So this is Lewis again. So it does. So I have another demo. If someone asks that question, if they'd like to see, I'd be happy to schedule some time to show you. It can push It can push data external to the Wonderware Historian or external to Wonderware System Platform. We can, of course, get data from any of those sources. So I showed a demo recently where I had an InTouch HMI window built where the temperature that I typed in or the work order ID that I typed in from the mobile device gets pushed out to InTouch. And that, of course, can happen in real time, obviously, if you have the connectivity in place, or at the end, when you're finished with the round, when you resynchronize back with the environment. So yes, it can go to the historian bidirectionally, and it can go to System Platform bidirectionally as well.
Great. What is the typical implementation time for this solution?
This is Pete. I'll take that. So there's a variety of factors that can impact that, but typically it's about 4 weeks from start to being live.
Great. Let me see here. What is the minimum number of users the solution will support?
So this is Lewis. I can take that. So from a technical perspective, obviously, we've used this for customers who don't have hardware. So what I didn't show you was there is a program, if you will. So I'm air quoting around that. So there's the ability to run this. What I showed you was literally running in a Server 2012 virtual machine. You can run it on a computer. So we have used this where they have, not really any mobile users, but they wanted to put it on a PC at the back of the plant or something like that to give the instrument electricians the ability to manually enter data into the system. So I'd say sort of 1/0, and then it scales out in a tiered style architecture, much like the System Platform technology. So you could have, theoretically limitless number of users, but one I would say probably be the smallest.
Okay. Gary, this may be a question for you. Is there a demo license available for the end user to pilot the solution?
Yeah, sure. I would say what we'd like to do in that manner is probably spend a little bit of time with the customer identifying what they're trying to achieve and accomplish with a pilot type scenario. Given the package solution that Pete covered at the end of the presentation here, I think we can probably accomplish one and the same if it merits, and just a quick getting the solution up in a matter of a couple weeks. But yeah, we're happy to discuss any opportunities around a pilot or get it up and running for the customer and making sure it's accomplishing really what they're trying to do. So I would say in that time frame, it probably, again, take a couple, 2 or 3 weeks, but we can certainly work with them to do that. Thanks.
Okay. Yep. All right, that looks to be all of our questions today. I'd like to thank you all for attending. We appreciate your support, and I'd like to thank Gary, Lewis, Pete, and Kevin for their presentations today. Again, this is being recorded, and we will be sending that out later next week. And if you should have any further questions, or you'd like to see a demonstration personally, or you'd like more information, please feel free to contact us. You can reach us via our website, insource.solutions. There's a contact us button right at the top of the page, or you can email us at communications@insourcess.com, and we'll be happy to get you connected with the right people. So thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Thanks, Katie.